ongoing conversations about mental health. This is Dr. Stephen Walker coming at you live from Facebook or on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. So what I'm hoping for is that we can continue engaging with each other about mental illness, mental health. Some of you who have joined us in previous broadcasts know my position is pretty much unwavering when it comes to the fact that we all should be working on our issues. We should all be working on our mental health. Excuse me. We enjoy talking about our physical health, our dental health, our whatever health. We're proud of our personal trainers. We're proud of what we do. We need the same spirit when it comes to mental health. I just want to talk about one quick topic when it comes to the whole self-help, self-improvement industry. If you hear a lot of people who are online or talking about how to help yourself, how to improve, how to change, I'm sure they mean well. I'm sure that they're trying to help, but they all seem to have an axe to grind with psychology, meaning that they all like to say that psychotherapy or psychologists or people in the mental health field or, this and that and all that, when in reality, they are using mental health and psychology techniques in order to, quote unquote, try to help people. And this is where, I take some exception to it. You just don't see that in other industries. You don't see people in, online doing talks on how to do heart surgery or do brain surgery or how you should fix your knee or whatever. Sure, they're home remedies, but what people don't really get about working with people's thoughts and emotions is it's a very complicated, it's a very exact, there's so much minutia and detail to it that just thinking that you're going to be able to help somebody because you feel that you are in a position to do that is a little troublesome to me. Am I saying that psychologists and psychiatrists primarily psychologists, the whole psychology, a lot of people don't even know the difference between psychologists and psychiatrists. But again, if you're tuning in, please ask a question. If you have a comment, please chime in. But my position with a lot of that is that if you're going to be working on trauma, if you're going to be working, and again, please share this if you're watching this, bring in some people. If you're going to be working on thoughts, emotions, things that pain you, things that cause you pain, things that are troubling you, you should have somebody who's experienced in that and who can help you with that. Otherwise, you're really being led down a rabbit hole of potential traumatic issues that you have no idea how they're going to come back and bite you. So, hi, Allison. Great. Narcissism. There are coaches, there are people putting out videos about narcissist this and narcissist that and how to handle a narcissist. And great question, Allison. So I was going to have a chat about that at some point. So what is narcissism? What do people know about narcissism? So basically, there are certain character traits and certain constellations of behavior that a narcissist will have. One of the main ones that they have, now people can have narcissistic qualities. People can have depressive qualities. People could have bipolar qualities. People could have a range of mental health issues, but to qualify for a narcissist, being narcissistic, having narcissistic personality disorder, they have to meet a certain set of criteria. One of the main ones is lack of empathy. So if I'm gonna deal with that one first because there are many split offs when it comes to narcissism. But if you're dealing with somebody who you genuinely feel has no empathy for you or people around you, and they're not in a position to even acknowledge that, to own that, then you're going to have to make a hard decision about whether you want that person in your life. Now, let's go with the assumption that you want that person in your life. being with somebody who doesn't have a lot of empathy is going to be something that is extremely challenging. I've worked with hundreds of couples, thousands of couples. Some the man is a narcissist, some the woman is more narcissistic. But if the question is, how do you deal with a narcissistic person? The best answer I could give you is very, very carefully. Do not expect them to put your needs above theirs. Do not expect them to really feel for you. They're going to be constantly thinking about what's in it for them. You know, a lot of people think the current occupant of the White House is a malignant narcissist. Some people could make that case because he's seemingly everything that he does and has done throughout his career. If you look at what Trump's career has been for the last 40 years, it's about him. So that is one of the main challenges of being with a narcissist. A narcissist will, and some of you who know, have looked into this, will do what's called gaslighting. Now, gaslighting is from an Alfred Hitchcock movie called Gaslight. Actually, what is it called? Well, something gaslighting, but anyway, but I think that's actually the name. But it's the idea that you make somebody feel that they're the crazy one. Like a narcissist will make the person they're with feel like they're crazy. So Allison is asking, can they be cured? So great question. And this is kind of a segue into what I was going to talk about before, about this idea that there are people who believe that people don't change, that there's an idea that people can't change. I'm from the school of thought that anybody who wants to change, anybody who feels that they need to work on their issues can do that. The problem with narcissists is they're always right. They are the smartest person in the room, and nobody else has the answer but them. And they will make people around them feel like they're the crazy one. You know, one of the things a narcissist does is they will make you, Jennifer saying, I don't believe so. The key, Jennifer, though, is, does the narcissist want to change? Okay. A narcissist who wants to change can absolutely alter their behavior. People who say, you know, a narcissist's favorite line is, people don't change, people don't change. And what that is a projection from within them. They don't feel that people change because they're not going to change. They're not going to put in the effort to make a change. Hey, Janie, thanks for coming on. And thank you for your messages earlier. A narcissist will act as though everyone else is crazy but them. They are the smartest person in the room. So that means you need to change, not me. You need to change how you react to me. I'm not hurting you, which is another thing abusive people will say. They'll punch you in the face. Jennifer saying, yep, lived it, 14 years of hell. So she knows what it's like. But a narcissist will hurt you and then say, well, why are you taking everything so personally? Or a narcissist will say things like, it's up to you how you react to me, while they punch you in the face emotionally or psychologically. The key, though, people, is that you have to question. And by the way, everyone who, you know, whoever's chiming in and watching this, please share this. Please, we need to pull in people. The idea why I'm doing this is to normalize conversations about mental health. Mental illness is a pervasive threat to literally the fabric of our society. And I'm not trying to be melodramatic, but hey, Zanetta, how are you? Please ask a question. Please share this on your timeline. A narcissist, we're talking about narcissism and narcissistic personality disorder. We need to talk about our mental illness. Remember, everybody, myself included, has a degree of mental illness, just like everyone has a degree of physical illness. There's nothing to be ashamed of. Things about narcissists is one of the things I encourage my clients when if they are genuinely convinced that their partner's a narcissist, is to flat out ask them, are you going to work on yourself? And a lot of times the responses, as you guys can imagine, is, well, are you? Well, why is it always me? What about your issues? Men, I'm predominantly male, okay? I've had many female friends tell me, I had a friend when I was going through my doctoral program in Hawaii said, "Man, you're the most chick guy I've ever met," meaning that I'm very emotional. So one of the things that men are guilty of more so than women is we don't want to own our part in problems. We don't want to own that we have a part to play, that we made a mistake, that we did something wrong. The proverbial man, who's lost on the highway and refuses to ask for help. Same thing up here. Men do not like to ask for help. So if you're with a narcissist, you have to make the decision whether or not you are going to be able to stay in the relationship with them, because a narcissist will continue to make you believe that you're the problem. They have subtle different ways of making you believe that. Now, we could get into all those subtle ways, but the bottom line, like if you're making a stew, what holds the stew together? The water. Well, what holds a narcissist together? What holds the diagnosis of a narcissist together is lack of empathy. Lack of empathy. If you're with somebody who you genuinely feel has no empathy for you. And what's empathy? Remember, empathy is just feeling for the person, being able to feel for the person, not agree with the person, but feel for the person. Looking at what's happening in our country politically. A lot of people who support Trump, a lot of the white Americans who support Trump do so for multiple reasons. One of the main reasons is they feel their white heritage, their white identity is being threatened and is being lost, is being challenged by minorities or an influx of immigrants. Now, I feel for that. I do. I feel that must not be a good feeling for them to feel that. But I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. This country is a melting pot. We were founded by immigrants. We basically stole the land from the Native Americans. So I don't agree with it, but I feel that must be a very disconcerting feeling. On the other side of the political spectrum, people who are diehard tree-hugging liberals, they feel that the only way that our country is ever going to succeed is if we have rampant government and high taxes and all these government programs, free money to other people. I feel for that, but I don't agree with that. I think we need to find a balance. So empathy. If you're with somebody who doesn't feel for you, you've got to make the decision. If your decision is to stay, then you have to basically be ready to be with somebody who is not going to put your needs first. Now, again, I can break it down into multiple parts, but see, the difference between what I'm trying to do and other people out there who are putting out these is I'm trying to help people make changes. I'm not just saying, well, this is, A, B, and C, and D, and E, and F, and G, and H, and I, and J, and K, and just go on and on about this and that, and then don't give people a solution. You've got to make a decision as to whether or not you are able to be with somebody who is not going to put your needs above theirs, okay? So Allison is asking, why do people gaslight others? Excellent question. And remember, if you're just tuning in, gaslighting is making somebody believe that they are the problem. It's the classic example is, you're the crazy one. It's not me. You're the crazy one. Excuse me. So why do people gaslight others? Control. Number one, most narcissists love control. They love being in a position of power over somebody else. They do it not only and that's another thing people don't understand. A narcissist is not only a narcissist in your relationship with you. They're a narcissist across the board. This personality disorders like narcissism don't just end at your relationship. They are personality disorders that affect every aspect of their life. A lot of narcissistic personality disorder is conditioning, meaning they learned that. Maybe they had a narcissistic father, or maybe they were made to be the golden boy of the family. They were maybe an only child, so they had everything they wanted. Maybe they learned they were parentified early on. And remember, parentification, I'm sure you've maybe seen that around. So parentification is when you, as a child, are put in a role as a parent way too early. So you're given a ton of authority to, take care of your siblings, or you're refereeing your parents, from fighting, or your parents are triangulating you, meaning that they are arguing through you. Go tell your father, or that your mother is such a blank, or whatever it may be. So they gaslight people because the bottom line is they are, I don't want to say incapable of feeling for other people, but they just don't know how to feel for other people. Men are notoriously more narcissistic than women, because most men are raised by fathers who tell them stupid crap like, don't cry, or don't show your pain, or buck up, buttercup, or what do you want? What are you wearing, diapers, or whatever? They are early on been made to feel, if you're just tuning in, we're talking about narcissism and why people gaslight each other. They're put in they're basically, their emotional development is stunted by a father or they don't have a father, or they have a father who beats them or puts them down. So they gaslight people as a way of just, to them, it's just, they're not gaslighting you. This is just me being me. I worked in a sex offender treatment program in Portland, Oregon, and 99, if not 100%, I don't like to say 100% in this field, but 99% of all the teenagers I was working with were sexually offended. So to them, they weren't sexually offending anybody. This is what happens. So a narcissist will gaslight people around them. They don't think it's gaslighting. They're just, it's like a racist. A racist generally doesn't, and we all have prejudices, but racism is the classic form of conditioning, because nobody is born racist. Nobody. I don't care what hardcore racists say or bigots say, nobody is born that way. Nobody is born hating another person basically just on the color of their skin. Now, they have done, you're welcome, Jennifer. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for tuning in. Please share this. They have done studies where they've compared kids, or they've shown kids black faces, white faces, and they see difference, but they don't see superiority. So going back to why people gaslight each other, it's power. A lot of it is coming out of insecurity. Somebody who is gaslighting another person, basically making somebody feel inferior, needs the other person to feel inferior in order to feel good about themselves. So they are pretending that they are superior based on making another person feel inferior. And by the way, people, everybody does gaslighting to a certain degree, because what happens is, if you look at gaslighting as you're making you're displacing your feelings onto another person. Basically, you're saying, it isn't me that's crazy, it's you that's crazy, and blah, blah, blah. We all do that to a certain degree, but a narcissist combines that with a lack of empathy. Now, thankfully, most of us, and by the way, please, if you're watching this, send me a question, please. Sinieta, please send me a question. Lack of empathy. Thankfully, most people have a certain degree of empathy, meaning they can feel for other people. That's why we don't have a society that's like, Mad Max or something you see from some dystopian kind of Lord of the Flies universe where everyone is out to get everyone. We would need police on every corner. So everybody has the ability, everyone feels for people to a certain degree, but a narcissist doesn't have those skills to feel for another person, because guess what? Nobody felt for them growing up. Nobody felt for them. Nobody felt for that little kid who was scared and the father was telling them, buck up, buttercup, what's the matter with you? What are you acting like this for? They don't feel that it's even a skill to develop. Absolutely. Sinet is saying it's manipulation and abuse to a large extent. Exactly. Absolutely it is. Because what they're doing is they're physically and verbally, and sometimes, psychologically and emotionally, and sometimes physically abusing the person. So what I would recommend is that if you identify, see, you can split off narcissism into multiple different avenues, okay? But the bottom line is, if you think your husband or wife is a narcissist, but they have empathy, they feel for you, they console you sometimes, and they can feel your emotions, and they're not a narcissist. They may have narcissistic qualities. The thing that tips the scale into narcissism is when you literally feel this person doesn't give a crap about me. They could care less. You genuinely feel that if they don't get their way, it's that idea. It's their way or the highway. So what I encourage people to do who are staying in relationships with narcissists is, you got to make a decision. Okay, you have to decide whether you can go or whether you should stay. Now, if you stay, there's nothing wrong with you. If you stay, you just have to accept that you're going to be in a situation with somebody who your needs are secondary to theirs. So Christine is saying, I recently had a manager that is a narcissist. She was fired. She had all of us thinking that it was us. She has no empathy for anyone. I'm so glad you're talking about this subject. Great, Christine. Please share this. Post it on your timeline. Hey, this psychologist is taking live questions about narcissism. So great. But exactly, Christine, thank you for chiming in. It's not just men. It's not just men that are narcissists. Predominantly it's men, but it's not just men. And Christine had nailed it just nailed the nail on the head. She had all of us thinking it was us. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I'm talking about, is the narcissist will make you believe that you are the problem. They don't in any way, shape, or form own that they are part of the problem. Why? Because they can't come to terms with the fact that they are equally to blame for something that is causing another human being pain. Now, there are multiple reasons for that, okay? There are multiple reasons for that. The main reason for that is that they can't they don't know what it feels like to feel for another person. They don't understand that another person has feelings, has pain, because they didn't get that as a child. They didn't get that as a child, so they don't know what it means, what it feels like to feel pain. They never had somebody feeling for them like that. So again, back to the central question. What do you do if you're involved with a narcissist? You have to ask yourself whether or not I can deal with this, whether or not I can stay in this relationship. So Janie is saying that I was married to a monster that was so abusive in every form for 4 years. I got away with my life just barely. Great, Janie. Great. And Janie, like we talked about the other night, you got to work on that trauma. You got to work on that trauma. You got to work on the feeling that you are damaged goods. You got to work on the feeling that no man is ever going to love you again. You got to work on your relationship with yourself. But the main thing you have to identify, Janie, is I need to do the work. I've got this emotional wound and I've got to do the work, because if I don't do the work, then I'm never going to heal. People think that their emotional wounds are going to heal, on their own. Time heals all wounds. Well, time doesn't really heal wounds, people. Time covers over wounds. And those wounds, if they're not treated, infect our thinking, infect our hope, infect our ability to feel that we are worthy. So narcissism is a personality disorder that is held together by a lack of empathy, meaning that like I'm sure Janie, when she was in this abusive relationship for 4 years, an abuser doesn't care if he or she's abusing you. They don't care about that. They could care less. You brought the abuse on yourself. And then the abuse victim starts thinking things like, oh man, if I just hadn't said that, he wouldn't have hit me. Or if I just hadn't done that, he wouldn't have said that to me. The abuser, the victim of abuse is not allowing the abuse to happen, people. Please stop saying that to people who are in abusive relationships. Oh, you're letting the abuse happen. The abuser is letting themselves be an abuser. Okay? That's the bottom line. So if you're in a relationship with a narcissist and that narcissist doesn't have any self-awareness about themselves or about who they are, they're not going to make any changes, because for them to admit that they're wrong is that literally shatters their self-esteem, shatters their self-image, and they can't come back from that. That's why they cling so much to this image of themselves. That's why they need to dominate people. Allison is asking, what if the narcissistic person is a sibling? Great question, man. Well, woman, sorry, but man is, I just use that as a colloquial term. But what if the narcissist is your mom or dad? I mean, people have to make a decision about whether or not staying in a relationship with anybody. And when I say relationship, I don't mean just a love, intimate, emotional, sexual relationship. I mean, you are relating to another person. If your sibling, brother, sister, whatever, older, younger, you're convinced that they have zero empathy for you, I'm not saying write them out of your life. But, I mean, that's up to you. But I am saying don't expect much from them. Don't expect them to feel for you. Don't expect them to remember your birthday or call you up to check on you. Or if you call them and say, hey, I'm bummed out, that they're going to be like, oh, really, Allie? What's going on? Are you okay? No, they're going to probably quickly say, oh, you want to hear bummed out? You want to hear what bummed out is like? Or they'll say, well, we would have a better relationship if you just forgave me. If you just forgive and forget while I continue to abuse you. And they're abusive. There's certain abusive taglines that somebody who's abusing you will continue to say. They will blame you for not having the relationship with them. They'll say it's because of you. If you could just forgive me. And we could segue really quickly into forgiveness and all that. The idea that I would ever encourage a patient of mine to forgive, let's say a rapist, let's say somebody who's raped them, and then have a relationship with them. Imagine that. And that's what a lot of people who have abused you do. They not only abuse you and get you to the point where you're hurt, but then they turn around and point the finger at you and say, it's because of you. You're the reason we don't have a relationship. You're the reason. If you could just forgive me. Oh, so you're saying if I forgive you, you'll stop the behavior? Oh, no. That's not, no. You're just going to have to forgive me. So if you're going, like what I hear in Allison's question is that there's a narcissistic sibling in her life and she doesn't know how to deal with it. And that's acceptable and understandable. But what I would say to you, Allison, is you've got to ask yourself, what kind of relationship, why do I need this relationship if that person's not going to change? People who want forgiveness and don't change behavior, or don't even give you the idea that they're trying to change the behavior, or not even aware that they have behavior to change, I recommend you forgive them from a distance, okay? You don't have to stay angry and hateful, but you can forgive them and not have a relationship with them. And yes, I genuinely challenge people who are my clients to ask themselves, if you continue to be hurt by a person who's caused you trauma, who is ultimately going to suffer the most, them or you? Okay. So, narcissism is everyone thinks everyone's a narcissist at this point. Not everyone, but if, there are a lot of different people out there who are, and granted, they have a lot of followers and they have a lot of people listening to them. The problem is that they're not giving people tools on how to deal with the narcissist, meaning how to get out of the relationship, or they're putting out ideas of how to do things without any background on whether it's going to work for them. See, Allison, what I would ask you if I was working with you is what's going on within you that you feel you have to stay in a relationship with a narcissist? Like, even if it's a sibling, what is going on in you? What guilt do you feel? Why are you staying in a situation where you're being continually hurt? So let me just get to Janie's real quick. He can't hurt me anymore. As a matter of fact, last year at our son's wedding, he apologized for his past behavior. Great. I just started to cry and wondered, who is this guy? Well, Janie, that's a good question. Maybe he's starting to ask himself, why did he abuse you the way he did? Maybe he has regrets. Maybe he's saying to himself, man, I miss Janie. I made a big mistake. And by the way, another thing that people are being told is that these types of people can't change. Again, oh, okay, Allison, she's moving across the U.S. to live near me. I remember this from the previous night. Well, you're going to have to talk to her about boundaries. But getting back to what I was just going to finish out, I firmly believe that every human being has a capacity to change. Think about it like this. If you replace the word change with learn, then it's pretty obvious that everybody has the capacity to learn. Now, the key is whether or not people want to learn, want to change. In Janie's case, it sounds like, baby's dad is, looking at himself. And for a lot of men, losing a significant love, losing somebody like Janie, who is probably, sweet and kind. And I'm not saying you're without your own issues. And that's another thing, by the way, that a lot of these people who talk about narcissism, they're talking about it only from one perspective. Everyone has to own their issues. Now, I'm not saying Janie deserved to be beaten and abused. I'm not saying any of that. All I'm saying is Janie has to look within herself and ask herself, why am I in this situation? Why am I staying? Why am I not making this person understand that I am going to leave if you continue doing that? And again, I'm not saying this is you, Janie, but what am I doing that is causing this person to treat me in a certain way? Now, that doesn't excuse the behavior of the abuser. What it does is empowers the person like Janie to say, I'm doing nothing. I am not doing anything to deserve being treated like this. And that is a very powerful position to be in. So when I say everyone has to look at themselves and own their issues, I'm not saying that you brought the abuse upon yourself. I'm saying that you have to do that in order to tell yourself, I'm not doing anything if you can't identify it. Okay? If I get into an argument with my wife about something and I say to her, it's all your fault or whatever, and we have arguments like that until we calm down and start owning it, but I have to own how I'm affecting her. And this is where narcissists, malignant narcissists, meaning like people think like Trump is a malignant narcissist who literally cannot think of any other perspective but his own. If you're with a person like that and you can genuinely say, well, no, I've been a pretty good wife and I've been I have my issues, but you are then empowered to make a decision that you need to make. And one of the main things that keeps people in abusive relationships is insecurity. People feel I deserve it, or people feel I could never find somebody else, or the narcissist has gaslit the person to a point where they genuinely feel, oh, you're right, I'm so lucky that I have this person, or he's right, I'd be lost without him or her or whatever. So Allison is saying, how do you stop a controlling person from controlling you or influencing your life? Well, great question. You stop a controlling person from controlling you by first identifying what is going on within you. How are you, quote unquote, allowing them to control you? What is it about your emotional reactions to this person is under their control? Controlling another person and influencing your life, guys, is a belief that that person has that power. Okay, meaning that you believe this person can influence my life. So Allison, I'm thinking that whatever's going on with you and your sister, she's probably older, and this has been a pervasive thing in your relationship for years, where where she was maybe domineering and made you feel like, as a little girl, whatever, that you were lucky to have her as a sister, or maybe you wanted to play with her and her older friends and she sometimes let you, or whatever. But you have got to sit, Allison has to sit with herself and say, wait a minute, she influences my life? I mean, how did this happen? How is it that she can influence my life? And I think you might mean influence your feelings. Sure, we can all influence each other's feelings, absolutely. But we need to question our own rationale for being in a situation, our own thoughts of why we're in this situation. Allison needs to ask herself, this person, your first part of your question, how do you stop a controlling person from controlling you? You say that within yourself. You start mantraing to yourself, this person, she can't control me. How can she control me? Why am I allowing this person to control me? And if it's a sibling, Allison, and she's moving closer to you, you guys need to have a little coming to Jesus kind of talk. You need to sit her down and let her know what you're going to and what you're not going to allow in the relationship. So I would ask you, if you and I were working with each other, why do you believe she influences your life? How did it get to that point where she has unfettered access to you in your internal world so that she can influence your life? Okay, that would be the main thing I would ask. So getting back to Janie, he's 67 and I'm 57. We both own our issues. Excellent. We have been divorced for 20 years. I was so emotionally broken when we met. Today I'm strong. Excellent. Excellent. And I hope you're still building that strength, Janie, every day. Great that he's owning his issues. Amazing that you're even, still talking to him. I know that, you guys probably share kids and all that, but it's an indicator about where you are within yourself, that you are still allowing this person to even have access to you. And that is an aspect of being an indicator that you are strong, Janie. So I would probably assume that you have done some work on this. You probably have talked out some of that pain. You probably have worked with somebody to deal with some of that brokenness. Because, and when you say I was so emotionally broken, newsflash for everybody listening to this, either now or later, everyone's broken to a certain degree, people. Everyone, okay? Everyone has aspects of themselves that are broken, that were broken, that haven't been worked on and healed, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. The whole reason I'm trying to do this is to influence people into believing and thinking and knowing that mental illness, having emotional wounds or psychological issues or whatever you want to call them, is normal. In fact, it's as normal as having a cold. It's as normal as having the flu. You don't see people walking around being ashamed of having the flu. You may see them being bummed out that they're sick, sure, but you don't say, oh, no, I don't, what are you talking about? I don't have the flu. I mean, some people are like that, of course. They don't like to admit. But no, I'm not sick. What are you talking about? No. I'm ashamed. I don't want to talk about it. We don't do that with our emotional wounds. We do, with our physical illnesses. We do that with our emotional wounds because we are conditioned to be ashamed of weakness. We are conditioned as a society to be afraid of being weak, that weakness is bad. And I'm here to tell everybody who wants to listen, there is nothing wrong with a certain degree of weakness. There's not even anything wrong with a certain degree of neediness. The idea that we need love, imagine that has been stigmatized. Oh, you should never need anybody. You should never need anybody. sorry if I'm butchering your name, Sainieta. I apologize, but she's chiming in. She's saying they don't think that they don't think of the other person's feelings and how it affects them. Exactly. And why don't they, Sainieta? Because no one taught them how. No one taught them how. A lot of times you're looking at this person and calling them a narcissist, and and people are actually giving them credit for knowing that what they're doing is wrong. They don't know what they're doing is wrong. They don't. Most narcissists had never learned how to feel for other people. I didn't see it growing up. I remember early on, and with my current wife, my mother, we were at her house one day or whatever, and I'm a very affectionate person, and she was in the kitchen or something, and she said, "Wow, you're so affectionate with her. I never got any of that from your father," and I never saw that. I never had a father that came to me and said, "Hey, Stevie boy, you okay? How you feeling?" No, I never had that. I as I spoke about in a previous video, I used to be a profound self-hater. Profound. I talked about it before. I used to hate how I looked, hate how I was. My mixed ethnicity, the fact that my grandfather's black, was never talked about in our family. I didn't even know till after he died how much civil rights work he did in his neighborhood in Newport News, Virginia. I never knew that. And I was blown away by that. And so all I'm saying is I made a decision growing up that in my early 20s that I wanted to figure out, why am I the way I am? Why am I who I am? And that's how I began to question a lot of the crap that I was taught. People's conditioning. A narcissist has never learned how to feel for somebody else. Nobody has ever stopped and said to them, hey, you know what? This is a skill you need to develop. This is a skill that you need to work on, because you are going to lose somebody who loves you. And so they might say, well, I don't care. You'll never find anybody else. And then you have to make a decision for yourself as to whether or not you're going to stay. And that is the most difficult decision for a lot of people. So hi, Amanda. Amanda is saying I statements are incredibly helpful in talking with a narcissist. From my experience, both only use I statements to describe how each other are feeling. Absolutely. So if people don't know what an I statement is, instead of saying, you're hurting me, you're the reason I'm bad, you use it I am hurt by your behavior. I am troubled by the way you talk with me. I am feeling. But that's, again, a narcissist is a master when it comes to blaming people. And we all do that, okay? It's not, everybody has a degree of mental illness. If you, sorry, hard to say, Bidjacrone, from Twitter. Wow, you're the first Twitter comment. Thanks, Bidjacrone. Thank you. I appreciate that. She's saying, wow, that's exactly what I'm dealing with. Tell us, what are you dealing with? You're dealing with a narcissist. You're dealing with somebody who's making you feel like you're crazy. But yes, like Amanda's saying, you need to use I statements. And that's nothing you're going to hear a narcissist say. A narcissist is going to point the finger at you and say, you are the reason you're feeling this way. No, it's not me. Like talking about the way I was raised. My father's favorite line growing up was, I got no apologies to make. I'm not going to apologize for anything. And imagine that's what I learned growing up. So until I began working on that in my early 20s, did I finally begin to say, nah, dude, this is bullshit. I don't want to be like this. And anybody, any human being, and I don't care if they're a hardcore Black Lives Matter, all white people suck, or a hardcore white nationalist who says all black people are whatever minority, either one of those people who wakes up and says, wait a minute, what is this? Well, I mean, all white people suck, all black people suck. When you start allowing that in, absolutely. Everyone can make changes. Now, are they going to be, MLK or whatever? Probably not, but the degree of their racism will come down based on their own motivation to make the change. So a narcissist who can be potentially woken up to the fact that how they're feeling, that they need to begin to develop empathy for another person, absolutely, they can work on it. Absolutely. And anyone who tells you they can't doesn't know how to help them, doesn't know how to work with people with negative emotions, which again is my mantra, the let it go movement. Oh, let it go, or only surround yourself with positive people and all that. What is the underlying message there? I have no clue how to work with negative emotions. So I'm going to encourage you to just let it go. Okay, so B. Crone, I'm sorry. Yes, and figuring out how to best leave. How do you break up with a narcissist? We live together. When you say, how do you break up with a narcissist? I don't really understand what that means, because if you want to break up with them, I would ask you, if you were my client, why can't you break up with them? What is affecting you? And I wish people would use their real names on social media, but they don't. So I can't really pronounce your name. BJ Crone. Why can't you break up with them? I mean, you're saying you're figuring out how to best leave. What does that mean? Pack your shit and get out. I mean, I'm not trying to be mean, but when you say, how do you break up with a narcissist? What is going on there? Are they, oh honey, are they doing the push pull when you leave? Oh baby, I'll change. I promise. I'm sorry, I'll change. Is that what they're doing? Is that what you're talking about? I would encourage you to ask yourself. I don't know if you're a man or a woman, so, but I would encourage you to ask yourself questions like this. How do I best leave? I mean, why am I even thinking like that? How do I break up with this guy or woman? I mean, why don't I just break up with them? What? Oh, because then I'm going to be alone. Am I afraid of being alone? Do I have low self-esteem where I feel like I can never get anybody else? Do I have a relationship with myself that sucks, meaning that I hate myself and I believe that this is the best I can do? I mean, if I were to say to you, if you were in a job you hated, okay, now she fills it in, or he fills it in. We live together and there's a financial barrier to leaving. Now that's a different story, because I thought you were talking about an emotional connection. Oh, Ben. Okay, thanks, Ben. Appreciate that. So Ben is saying that either his boyfriend or his girlfriend, I'll assume it's either or whatever, but his partner it's treating him in a way that is making him feel emotionally abused or uncared about. Ben, does the person you're with have that lack of empathy feel? Then if you are letting the fight, and again, Ben, not trying to be a dick. I'm sorry. I do curse. I apologize. It's just the way I am. But a lot of people use the financial barrier as an excuse for staying. What that means a lot of times is, I don't want to be without them, so I am going to say I can't afford to leave with them. But I'm going to take you at face value, Ben, and I would say to you, which is more important, brother? Which is more important, your financial health or your emotional health? Which is more important? And I know that's overly simplistic, and I'm not saying you do it tonight, but you've got to start talking to Ben. You have got to start dealing with Ben from a different perspective. Meaning that you have to start, and I'm going to get to you in a minute, Andre. Wow, 2 questions from Twitter tonight. Beautiful. Andre's question is, why negative emotions are bad? Isn't it important too as being part of who we are? Absolutely, brother. That's what I'm saying. But that's not what you hear in the majority of the self-help garbage on the internet. You don't hear that. You hear let it go, or get rid of negative people, or focus on the positive, or ignore the negative. And it's complete nonsense, people. It's complete nonsense. Okay. So Ben is saying, absolutely, emotional abuse for years. I've already decided to leave. Well, Ben, then you need to start talking yourself into that. You need to start saying to yourself, basically like talking to yourself, not like, oh, you're so special and you should be, I posted something about that from Al Franken on Saturday Night Live, but talking to yourself the way you would talk to someone else. I can deal with this. I can handle this. Janie's saying, make a plan to leave if needed. Contact an abuse shelter. Excellent. Stash some money. But the main thing, Ben, is it's got to be from an inside out perspective. It's got to be Ben making a decision that he does not deserve this. Now, you could say to this person, you could give him one last chance. You can say, look, if you're going to continue this, if you're not going to own the effect you're having on me, then we need to talk calmly about how we're going to separate, not only emotionally and psychologically, but financially. So you guys need to put together a plan and figure it out. Now, I don't know if this person's going to go off the deep end and start, changing bank accounts or doing whatever they need to do to get even with you, but you need to protect yourself. But the main thing, my brother, what you need to do is you need to believe you deserve better than this. I don't know how old you are. I don't know. Do you come from an abusive relationship, in the past from your mom or your dad? Did you have situations in your past where people were pushing you away and pulling you back? Were you put in a position like I talked about earlier before you logged on called parentified, where you were put in a parent role and I don't know, but there's some behavior from your past, some conditioning from your past that is affecting your current behavior, brother. It is. I can tell you that without even knowing you. There's something going on from Ben in the past that has made him say, this is okay. This kind of treatment is okay. I don't know where your self-esteem level is. I don't know anything about you, but most current behavior is tied to past behavior, which again, people don't like to admit. People do not like to admit that they're still being affected by the past. Oh, the past. What's that famous line? I may be done with the past, but the past ain't done with me. I don't know if you ever heard that one, but that's an excellent one. And that is the truth. And until people come to terms with the fact, see? And guys, it's not that I'm psychic. I am just happen to be the best psychologist on the, no, I'm kidding. But he's saying my father was similar to my current partner. And that's exactly what happens. We play out these dysfunctional relationships until we work on them. So Ben, I don't know if you've ever talked to anybody. I don't know if you've ever, sat down and worked through some of these issues with somebody, but that's a great way to start. I know people looking at this will say, well, dude, you're a psychologist, so of course you're going to promote talking your issues out. Well, guess what? It friggin' works is why I'm promoting it. It's like telling a plumber who's promoting running a snake through a line and telling people run a snake through a drain before you spend $400. It's because it works. Talking things out works, people. You make connections in the present with crap that happened to you in the past, and then you're given a set of tools to manage it when it happens. That's basically what we do with people. You've heard me say it. We help people feel things in order to heal things, but people don't like to feel things. We're not. No. We don't want to feel things. We just want to go around crapping all over everybody with our conditioned beliefs and act like they're the problem, which is what a narcissist would do. Great. I'm all for counseling. I was in it before COVID. Excellent. Beautiful. You should maybe think about talking to somebody to kind of work through or give you something of what you need in order to make the break. But it sounds like you've already convince yourself that it's time to go. I would just recommend work on the self-talk, brother. Work on what Ben is telling Ben. How is Ben because he went through this with his dad? Excuse me. Is Ben a disasterizer, meaning that he disasterizes into the future? Oh crap! I'm never going to find anybody, or if I have to, or if we have to sell this, or oh shit, that's never going to work out. Am I more on the optimistic side than the pessimistic side? Was I conditioned to be pessimistic? These are all the issues you can work on with somebody who is relatively good at what they do. So just getting back to Andre, I don't know if you're still on, but why negative emotions are bad? Exactly. That's exactly my point, brother. That's exactly what I'm saying. Negative emotions are not bad or good. They exist. We live in this frigging social media fueled BS Everyone is an expert on how to help you work on your thoughts and emotions, and the majority of them are pushing you to believe that you can be pain-free. This is what the pharmaceutical companies are doing. They literally make people believe that they can be pain-free. Now imagine that. A company selling you painkillers is selling you on the idea that you can be pain-free. Not going to happen. Not going to happen, okay? You need to accept the negative and work on it. And anyone that you see a meme or somebody's giving you, oh, just let it go, or just, what? Why are you talking about negative shit, man? Excuse me. Just focus on the positive. That is their lingo for saying, I don't know how to deal with negative emotion. I don't know how to deal with negative emotion because I haven't dealt with my negative emotion. Okay? Sorry. Sanieta is saying, so my past relationship with men have a role in the type of men I attract and the relationships I have today. Yes. Absolutely. And you know which past relationship is the most impactful to women? Daddy, Papa. Like I remind my wife all the time, my son's relationship with my wife is his first relationship with a woman. Everything is going to stem from that. So I try to help her, in other ways. And of course she tries to help me because she's actually way better of a parent in many ways than I am. And I'm so lucky to have her in my life because she's kind of like balances me out because I can be too much sometimes. Trust me. So yes, Sanieta, absolutely. Your past relationship with men has a huge role in the type of men that attract in relationships that you have today. So if you had a non-existent dad, then you are going to have low self-esteem. And you're going to think that men coming and going or leaving you is going to affect you. If you had an all-consuming dad that made Sanieta she was just the cat's meow and daddy's little princess, then you're going to have a lot of unfulfilled relationships because what's going to happen is you're going to expect everyone to treat you and love you like your dad, and that ain't going to happen. So what I would recommend for you is you need to look at, that's interesting. I never really thought of that. I never really thought that maybe my past relationships are affecting my relationship with men today. But Sanieta, it's also affecting your relationship with you. As anybody who's a fan of these or has seen them, my mantra is your relationship with yourself is the primary relationship you should have. And very religious people will say, no, your relationship with God is a primary relationship you have. And my answer to that is, if you hate yourself, if you have a crappy relationship with yourself, I'm not thinking you have that great of a relationship with God, but that's a whole nother issue. So, why do narcissistic people cry often? That's very interesting. That's a very interesting question, Allison. My experience with that is that narcissistic people cry a lot because they're caught or they're facing things within them that are what's called ego dystonic. So in psychology, there's a, and I got to wrap up here at some point, but that's fine. There's a thing called ego systonic or ego dystonic. So ego systonic is things within my mind or I'm comfortable with, I'm cool with, I don't have an issue, I'm not in conflict with them. Ego dystonia, ego dystonic is, oh crap, this is contrary to who I am, or I don't know what's going on. Now that's one angle. Another angle is that, and it's interesting that you say, why do narcissistic people cry often? That's an interesting thing. So what I'm guessing is you're saying that your sibling cries a lot, and when she cries, that you think that's a way of controlling you. I could see that. Maybe the cries are like the last ditch effort to get sympathy. So, why don't you ask the person, why do you cry so much? Why are you crying? Like, what are you feeling right now? Like when I have a client and they start tearing up or they start crying, I don't, oh, no, don't. Oh, let's talk about something else. Or I rescue them from that. No. My question to them is, what are you feeling? What are those feelings? What's making? So ask the person and when you say narcissistic people cry often, I'm guessing that you've been exposed to multiple narcissistic people and they all cry, because that's a new one. I haven't really heard, and a lot of the clients I've worked with who have been with narcissists is they're actually devoid of emotion. So whoever you think is a narcissist and is crying a lot, I would ask them, why are you crying? Pin them down. Pin them down. Okay? So Angie's asking a question. She texted me and I was going to get to it last session, but I haven't gotten to it. So great. I have nightmares that leave me struggling to tell what is real and what is just a nightmare. It's stuff from the distant past as well as stuff from the near past. Mixes my kids into it, ends up with me being upset and confused for several hours at least, sometimes just a lingering sadness and despair all day. Angie, again, you don't need a doctoral degree to know that there's some trauma in there that needs to be worked at. And the interesting thing about nightmares is that nightmares are your brain's way of healing, meaning that there are things in your brain that need to be worked on. And it's trying to heal in a way by exposing you or exposing itself to that. So the nightmares, if it's things from your distant past, then you've got to start dealing with it. But just to give you some quick advice on how to handle that in the morning is, prior to going to bed, Angie, you've got to start mentally prepping yourself for bed, meaning you've got to calm down. You've got to talk yourself down. You've got to tell yourself things like, if I have a nightmare tonight, it's just a nightmare. I can handle it. Maybe write it down afterwards, but prep for the nightmare so that when or if it happens, you're not caught off guard by it. Okay. So the lingering sadness and despair all day, you got to get into those feelings, sister. You do. Okay. You got to get into it. You've got to feel what that sadness is, because, one of the things I was going to talk about tonight before everyone started with their questions, which is great. I don't want to do all the talking. I want this to be interactive. Yes, exactly. Create a routine. It's called sleep hygiene. Don't do anything in your bed other than sleep. Don't read. Don't look at computers. Don't look at phones. But prep yourself all day long. If I have a nightmare, I can deal with it. I can deal with it. I can handle it. I can handle it. Okay? I can deal with that. And prep yourself for that. But Angie, as we've talked about in the past, there's some stuff in there that needs to be worked on, sister. There is. You got to start working on, and I would start writing down the general theme of the nightmare so that you can start while working on them. So Allison is saying, back to Allison, I have two sisters and they cry all the time. They cry when they don't have things go the way they want to. Exactly. It's a form of control. But the fact that they're crying generally means, now, again, it could be, fake crocodile tears. It could be manipulative crying. It could be something like that. But the fact that they're crying means they're emotional. So if they're emotional, that pushes them a little bit out of the narcissist thing, because a classic narcissist, imagine, and again, I'm not running down Trump, I'm not doing that, but when's the last time you think Trump cried? And then when is the last time you think Trump cried for somebody else? So the fact that your sisters are crying lends me to believe that they have more narcissistic qualities than the diagnosis. Now, I know they've hurt you, but I would ask them, why do you guys cry so much? Do you cry because you're not getting your way? Is that what's going on? Why does that make you cry? Okay. So Janie is saying, back to Angie's question, so true. My nightmares turned into flashbacks, which eventually forced me to see a counselor and get my control back. Excellent. Now, Janie's saying never. I don't know what you're saying never to. Sure, Angie, no problem. You're welcome. So Janie, I don't know what you're saying never to. But Allison, I would seriously consider the three of you guys having some group sessions with a counselor or a psychologist or somebody trained to manage this. You're welcome, Allison. But I would recommend that you guys all sit down and try to work through some of these issues. Okay. Jane. Oh yeah. Right. But, never. Oh, I got you. Yeah. Never. Yeah, right. The thought of Donald J. Trump crying for somebody else or feeling that emotion, you can't even imagine that. Not saying that he's all bad and, Trump delusional disorder and all that. Okay. I have tons of Republican friends, so we're not going to get into that. But what I will say is, generally speaking, narcissism is held together by a lack of empathy and that lack of connection to your own feelings. Okay. And granted, Trump probably from what I've heard about his father, I mean, guess what Donnie Boy was learning from daddy. So anyway, all right, guys. Well, again, thank you everybody who contributed tonight. You're welcome. Thank you for your time too, Janie. So please continue to share this. Please continue to get the word out. Remember, I'm gonna probably have a guest next week. I'm working out some of the technical kinks on that. So the main thing I want to leave you guys with: everybody is capable of healing. Everyone. I firmly believe that. Excuse me. The key is whether or not you want to heal. And people who want to heal can absolutely heal. Okay? Jennifer is saying, I leave my phone in the living room when I go to bed. Great. Exactly. And ask my Google Home Mini to play guided meditation on Pandora. Excellent advice. Excellent for Angie. Excellent. Okay. Sanieta, thank you. Please share this. Please. Okay. We need more people talking about their mental health. Okay. Please. So please, we're really at an interesting road in our society. And I try not to fall into the pessimism, but people need to work on their issues. Okay. And there's nothing wrong with having issues. Remember, one of my domain names, it feeds my website, everyonehasissues.com. Everyone has issues and there's nothing wrong with it. There's only something wrong with it if you don't admit it. Okay? Great, Sanieta. See you on Monday. Please tell people about it. Please, I need you guys to help me promote this. And I hope everyone has a good weekend. Shoot me private messages or text or whatever, and we can do some after hours texting or whatever. No problem with that. Okay, have a great weekend. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on Monday. Take it easy.